very quickly, this is a video on how to do interpretation in the feed. In Module B, you need interpretation. My students made a very quick distinction between the effect is the general feelings or thoughts of a technique or example of language that anyone could agree on. You know, if something expresses a happiness or a love or an optimism, interpretation is when it becomes a little bit more customized, a little bit more specific. So if you're studying feed, I'm sorry, this is a spoiler alert, but I'll just show you the end of the text and how interpretations can be a little bit more customized. And you can express in your essays that there are vexed or split perspectives, and you can mention that in your essay. For example, at the end, Titus is talking to Violet on her deathbed, and he's still being a bit of a jerk, in my opinion. Before this, he's worried about the height of his sleeves up his arms, but then he does these, he actually reaches a point where he says, Violet, you know, there's one story I keep telling you, and then he actually starts crying. So it's not a complicated technique, but you're trying to talk about interpretation here. You don't need a complex technique. It's the interpretation where the money can be. I cried sitting by her bed and I told her the story of us. It's about the feed, I said. It's about this meg-normal guy who doesn't think about anything until one wacky day when he meets a dissident with a heart of gold, which is a bit weird because dissidents get executed or whatever, or in this case, Violet's being punished by the system or abandoned by it. And then he's got all these pop references. A heart of gold, I said, set up against the backdrop of America in its final days. It's the apocalypse, and he's just singing about it like it's a TV sitcom, a high-spirited story of their love together. It's a laugh-out-loud funny, real heartwarming, and a visual feast. I picked up her hand and held it to my lips. I whispered to her fingers. Together, two crazy kids grow, have madcap escapades, and learn an important lesson about love. And they learn to resist the feed. Rated PG-13 for language, I whispered, in mild sexual situations. Now, he's still a jerk here. I think one interpretation is, has he matured like a true Bildungsroman, or is he still a bit of an idiot lost in pop culture superficiality? I sat by her room, by her side, and I stared at the ceiling. I held her hand on a screen. Her heart was barely beating. So on a screen, like she's not even a person, she's still product. And I could see my face crying in her blank eye. And then we get this. Feeling blue, then dress blue. It's the Blue Jean Warehouse final sales event. Stock is just flying off the shelves at prices so low you won't believe your feed. Everything must go. Everything must go. Everything must go. And my interpretation here is this is not just about selling jeans. This is actually about the end of days. This is the whole economic system. Capitalism, materialism, environmental exploitation, and this is where M.T. Anderson's getting big. So it's not just about selling jeans, it's about the entire system. And then the third, or I think we're up to maybe third or possibly fourth interpretation now is Anderson trying to give us this horrifyingly sad, disturbing ending because he just wants us to feel that pain just for fun, like we need that, or saying that we're doomed and being negative, or is he actually optimistic and saying he thinks we can turn it around, but we need a tragic ending to mobilize us in the real world. So not just the context of 2006, but what is it for 2020 onwards? What world do we want to build when we put this book down and go outside? And with all these interpretations, you can make your own personal judgment, including being ambivalent and caught between the two of them. But if you really want to show the marker that you know the difference between just an effect or an interpretation, you have to consider multiple readings into this text.